I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
The more you talk, the harder I want to hit you.
I'm happy because of being here today. Fuck you.
Come on, you want me to drive? No. You're supposed to be suicidal, remember? I'll
Anybody
drive.
a drive?
Get in the car.
Fucking shit. Fuck me in the fucking ass. Fuck you, you fucking stupid cunt.
Hey everyone, it's Don G. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And our movie review is going to be for the second entry of this trilogy. And that's going to be for the first sequel from Pixar, the third feature they did, and that is 1999's Toy Story 2. Yes, I also have this on DVD, and I also have it right there on VHS. And no, I'm never giving it away because it's too valuable to give away. But yeah. Alright, and once again, back on you go, and you know what? You can go right there. You'll be easier to see then. There. So yeah. This is pretty much, to me, the even better sequel to the film. And this was pretty much the movie that actually really started to make Pixar's golden age continue on with their successes. Right there. So, the plot of Toy Story 2 is Andy is going away to cowboy camp, and Woody was going to go, but his arm gets ripped off, so he has to stay. And so then eventually, while doing a rescue mission for one toy from a yard sale, he gets kidnapped by Al McWiggin, this greedy collector and proprietor of a place called Al's Toy Barn, which is kind of like the toy barn version of Toys R Us. And it's all-out rescue mission. Buzz and his friends, Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, Rex, and Ham, have to go into town and rescue Woody from winding up as a museum piece. They must find a way to save him before he gets sold in Japan forever, and they'll never see him again. And of course, meanwhile, on the other hand, Woody also meets some other characters named Jesse, Bullseye, and Stinky Pete, who were pretty much part of a show he was part of called Woody's Roundup Game. And Woody starts to learn a bit more of his past and is wondering if he should go to Japan or go home. So that's my reaction. Toy Story 1 is phenomenal enough, but man, is Toy Story 2 even more phenomenal. This is an example of the perfect animated sequel and everything a sequel should always do after the success of the first film. With this movie, you explore Woody's past. You actually know where he came from and stuff. You make the comedy even funnier. You develop the characters better. You even further improve the animation. They give us new terrific characters, and even give one of them such a sad tearjerker moment I'll explain later. Toy Story 2, to me, is easily my second favorite film of 1999, and it's the second best animated film of the 90s, and one of Pixar's greatest films yet. And weirdly enough, this was a sequel that actually had a bit of a hell production. So, and I'll explain that in the production. So, how Toy Story 2 was made was, this originally, guys, was not going to be a sequel that would go to theaters. Or a 90-minute movie. No. Originally, at first, Toy Story 2 was going to be another one of the Disney's direct-to-video sequels at that time. But then, of course, what changed John Lasseter's mind on that was after he saw one kid play with a Woody doll, he had a change of heart and decided, you know what? Fuck direct-to-video. We're going to make Toy Story 2 a theatrical movie, and we're going to make it a 90-minute movie, and it's going to go to theaters. And it's going to be a normal sequel. So, they decided it would become a normal sequel. And there was a bit of a problem. Around 3 years after Toy Story, they had to jump on doing their next film, A Bug's Life. And so Toy Story 2 began production and billing separate from Pixar on a more smaller scale because most of the main staff were doing A Bug's Life at the same time they were doing this. And story rules proved promising, and they were making a theatrical release, but Pixar wasn't really happy with the film's quality. So Lasser and the story team redeveloped the entire plot in one weekend. And though most Pixar features would take years to development, the originally release date could not be moved, and production schedule for Toy Story was compressed into 9 months. So yeah, Toy Story 2 had a bit of a nightmare production. It was going to be direct-to-video, but then they changed their minds. They decided to make it theatrical instead. And then another problem, they were working on Bug's Life around the same time, and so a lot of the main staff couldn't really come back to do this one. So they had to make a separate staff for this one while they were busy working on Bug's Life. Because clearly, like, Bug's Life was a film that kind of was clearly demanded straight away because Toy Story was already proven to be such a huge hit. So they didn't really get a chance to really just enjoy Toy Story's success first. They clearly... And honestly, it kind of feels like despite this one having the shorter production, this one felt like it had the more heart put into it. I think this one had the more effort put into it. And the more thoughts. Kind of compared to Bug's Life, really. So yeah, like what I'm trying to say is, despite all the production struggles, it would get completed in time, and it would premiere at the El Capitan Theater on November 13th, 1999. Then the next week or so, it got released in theaters to November 24th, and you're not going to believe this. Did it get critically panned, and did the bad production ruin the sequel? No. Instead, it got the same amount of praise as the first one, if not even better praise. And it actually made even more money. It made over like 400 million worldwide initially. I think now it's up to 511 million worldwide. And pretty much, it once again got considered one of the greatest animated films ever made, and it's often considered one of the best sequels of all time. So, the bad production paid off in the end. Like, in a way, so the bad production did not ruin the movie. In fact, it ended up making an even better movie. And you know what? I'm glad they decided to change their minds and make this theatrical, because this was a sequel that definitely should be follow-up to a critically praised film like Toy Story, instead of being followed up with a cheap direct-to-video clone at all. So I'm glad they decided to make it a theatrical film, because this film deserves to be better theatrical. So, Toy Story 2 would go on to be the third highest-grossing film of 1999, and it won Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy at the Golden Globe Awards. And eventually would get a third film after 11 years called Toy Story 3, which also suffered a bit of a hectic production as well. More on that in Toy Story 3's review. Alright, so here are the epic good guys in the story. So, usually a lot of times sequels don't really live up to their predecessors. There's exceptions like Aliens, or The Last Crusade, or Empire Strikes Back, or Terminator 2. Pixar achieved that ranking back then, to close out the 90s even, and improve the original groundbreaking film that started them. And this came after the mixed results of Bug's Life, too. Not only is this movie hysterically funny, but like every time, they knew where the plot was going, and something new and original got thrown to the mix. Like, there's one bit where you're laughing hysterically, and then there's also one bit where you're immediately brought to tears with one character's backstory. Right there, so it makes you feel a range of emotions. It's still got the funny stuff. It makes the emotional stuff actually much more emotional than the first one. And it's definitely one of the cleanest and most well-designed animated movies to come from any studio, and it still is. The plot is very trim and concise, and once again, like the first film, it's not just a film for kids. It's also got plenty of grown themes to satisfy even adults as well, like the first film did as well. In fact, even more so than the first film. The animation is very tremendous, especially if you pay attention to the details. And hell, you know something great? Remember the short Jerry's Game, the first short that they would make before a movie? And it was pretty much a short that would play for 90s kids if they went to go see A Bug's Life in theaters back in 1988 when they were kids. They're not kids anymore, obviously, but back when they were kids, if they ever went to see Bug's Life in theaters, they would watch a short before called Jerry's Game, and heck, even when they got it on VHS, they would watch the short before the movie as well. Hell, in fact, like the short film Jerry's Game, I think I remember that more than I do really the film Bug's Life. I think I remember that short way more. Like that short film, it to me is honestly better and honestly really iconic than that film. Like that's the one where this old man is playing chess alone in the park, and pretty much he doesn't just play chess alone. He pretty much moves seats and pretty much pretends to be a different version of himself by taking off his glasses and making a rival turn. And that's a well shot short because it actually does feel like eventually he's actually playing it with someone else, despite the fact he's actually swapping seats as the short progresses. But they make it look like he's playing with a different person that looks identical to him. And the one with the glasses wins, and the reward he gets is his dentures. So yeah, that was a good way to kick off their shorts that would play before their movies back then. And Jerry here actually makes a cameo as the cleaner. Well, originally they were going to use someone else, but they couldn't come up with a different character in time, so they just reused Jerry. But that was a great genius idea. Like, and it's an even nice detail is that you see a piece of the chessboard, one of his chess things, in the drawer when he's getting ready to fix Woody's arm and repolish him for that sale. And once again, you get some more iconic Star Wars spoof as well around near the climax of the film. And usually few sequels can be equal or surpass the original. And for an animated feature, Toy Story 2 was the first animated sequel that didn't go direct to video. Well, okay, no. It wasn't really the first to go direct to video. There were some other ones like Five Goes West and All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, but the public didn't really remember them that much, and they didn't really do well. But this was the first animated sequel to get critical praise and be a huge hit in the theaters. Right there, and pretty much there. And this came out when I was 1 year old, and pretty much I watched this around the same time I got introduced to the first one. Like easily, it definitely is It was the film that, after this film's critical praise, Pixar would go on to have a golden age streak, where they had Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, all independently. Like, this was the film that really started to really further improve their success after Toy Story, despite the fact this had the least amount of staff working on it. But it actually was the one of the two they did after Toy Story that felt like it had the most effort put into it. Like, Toy Story 2, remains, it was for a while the only sequel Pixar put out, but eventually, though, we all know that was not the case. They would do more sequels again once Toy Story 3 came out, but for a while before that film, this was their only sequel at the time. They were going to do some other sequels with a different studio, but then that studio shut down, and then those originally planned sequels were scrapped. And so they just moved to Pixar, and they did them eventually, even if it took them years. And this movie also brings back the whole cast, like Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, and favorite characters that really endeared themselves to us. Like, there's so much more story that can be told from the toys in Annie's room in this movie. So how do we start off? So we ironically kind of start off with this pretty also kind of funny first act, where the opening video game scene is pretty much where it opens up with Buzz Lightyear, and it's kind of video game style mission based off his franchise, where he goes through a set of booby traps, he finds this battery, and then his nemesis Zurg confronts him, and it plays up as an epic battle. So then, of course, just as he flips over Zurg and prepares his laser, the evil Emperor Zurg rolls around and just blasts half of him off with one shot, and the legs just collapse, and then it just cuts to game over, and it just shows it was actually a video game the whole time, and Rex was playing it, and Buzz Lightyear was guiding him through it. Like, oh, you almost had him. Oh, I'm never gonna defeat Zurg. Sure you will, Rex. Like, you're a better Buzz than I am. But I look at my little arms. I just can't hold the fire button and jump at the same time. It it does well in making kind of trolling you. At first, it kind of feels like, what the fuck was that? That's the end of the movie? And then it turns out to be a video game at first, but it's a nice little prank it kind of pulls on the viewer, because that's the thing. The Buzz in the video game actually looks a lot like his toy self. So, at first you think you're actually watching a sequel and it just almost ends right away with him being shot in half. And then it turns out it's actually not really the real Buzz that's in that mission. It turns out he was guiding Rex in a video game that Andy just got right there. But yeah, we pretty much see our first act with Woody and Buzz are now co-leaders of Andy's toys. Ever since they had to work together in the first one, they're really friends now. And Andy's going to take Woody to cowboy camp. After a little while, Andy has a few minutes left, so he decides to take a last minute plan to play with his toys again, and this time use another nemesis, Dr. Porkchop, aka Ham, and his army of Buckato soldiers. And what he's pretty much, and once again, Woody in this round has to save Bo Peep. And with the death option, instead he picks Buzz Lightyear. Pretty much Andy has Buzz on RC and wheels out to knock off Dr. Porkchop, and pretty much it shows here where for a while Buzz became Andy's new favorite toy. Then it's kind of swapped around, for a while where he stopped playing with Woody for a while. And then eventually though, he did start to actually miss Woody after he went missing. And so basically now, he actually now plays with both of them and pretty much has both of them teaming up in the little scenarios he reenacts with them. So, pretty much a way, like, they're now both his two favorite toys in the world. Right there. And so, you also get some more other funny stuff in this whole entire first act, where they're trying to find Woody's hats, and it's, like, missing for a while, and, like, Buzz is giving this reassuring, don't worry, Woody, just a few hours, they'll be sitting around a campfire with Andy making delicious hot schmoes, and Buzz's face just makes it all even funnier, and Woody just replies, they're called s'mores, Buzz. Oh, right. Easily then, but then, after the whole little play around, last minute bit of playtime Andy has to the toys before he goes to camp, when he's trying to have Woody high-five Buzz, it accidentally rips his arm, and so when, like, his mom says they can fix him, but Andy's like, nah, just leave him, so he puts him on the shelf. And so then, of course, Woody then has a pretty dark nightmare scene where he begins to fear Andy's going to throw him away. And it's a kind of a dark scene where it goes, at first he comes back from cowboy camp a little early, and it sees the arm, oh, you're broken. I don't want to play with you anymore. And just kind of throws to the floor to the trash. He gets pulled down by trash, by Woody. And then it turns out to be a nightmare. And it's kind of a nice little dark moment right there. And so after he wakes up, he finds a squeaky penguin toy voiced by the late Joe Ranft. May he rest in peace as well, named Wheezy. He's this penguin toy with a broken squeaker. It also got shelved. And he's about to be sold at a yard sale. Although, and what we also see here is that, remember that puppy that got opened up at Christmas at the end of the first one? Well, that puppy, named Buster, actually ended up becoming friends with the toys. So yeah, it wasn't another little conflict with the first one, no. Buster became a quick friend with the toys, and heck, like, even does a little stick 'em up thing with Woody. And so, like, and when Andy tries to, like, Buster's kind of already had it, though, like, but Andy doesn't realize that. It's like, oh, we'll work on that when we get back. And not knowing that Buster already had that round with Woody, but yeah, but Buster is pretty much now a big friend with the toys, and even likes to kind of mess around with them, and even helps them on a few missions. Like, he pretty much helps Woody rescue Wheezy, and pretty much then when he has him go outside not casual, it's like, Woody tells him, no, not that casual. Right there, and so he saves Wheezy, but he actually falls on the ground. At first he gets found by his little girl, but the mom sees the ripped arm and refuses to sell him. And then, of course, though, Al then finds him at that time. And so he tries to have Andy's mom buy, but when Andy's mom sees him there, it's like, that's not for sale. How did that get out? And so Al is disappointed by this, but then Al doesn't give up. He instead decides he's going to patch this plan to steal Woody, so he breaks a few things, and he's able to steal and kidnap Woody and drive off. Buzz fails to foil the theft, but he finds clues identifying the collector is named Al McWiggin, who they saw brief glimpses of on TV. He's the owner of a place called Al's Toy Barn, which is kind of like a store that looks almost similar to Toys R Us in a way, except it's more barn-like design. It's got barn-like decorations. Think of it like that. So, Buzz rides up Mr. Potato Head, Slinky Dog, Rex, and Ham, and go out to rescue Woody. Everybody else stays behind. So, this is like a pretty great little first act where you kind of set up how things have been going ever since Buzz and Woody had their adventure and they're friends now. You also get to see like the Buster, the dog that Andy now has, is now officially friends with the toys even, and easily pretty, yeah, of course, and like pretty much now Andy whenever he plays with his toys now, he pretty much has Woody and Buzz teaming up and being both the heroes. And it's got the adaptation to change, loyalty, abandonment, friendship, and a lot of great themes for this children's movie. And that's the appeal of Toy Story. It can be viewed at different levels. For a child who enjoys the animation, the story one level, and for else members sit and enjoy it on another. By definitely handling the different themes and appealing to different segments and audiences with the same movie, Pixar exhibited exactly why they'd be the top dogs with the field back then. And the blending of wonderful animation artistry, the terrific writing, the great voiceovers that are thanks to Pixar, and lots of films that would come out after this would be appropriate for all ages and kind of rarely were. Like, this is a film that was perfect for both adults and children at the same time, like the first one. Toy Story really is that clever. And heck, Toy Story All 2 also has a great time kind of making fun of itself in other movies. Like, it has Jurassic Park, it has Star Wars near the end. The humor is constant, and it's simply right on. Like, Toy Story 1 is a buddy picture, where here, Toy Story 2 kind of is the one that pokes fun at Commando Rescue films, computer games, and Barbies. And as with Toy Story, that's also filmed with the heart lighting, not only the friendship of the original group of toys, but some interesting new ones too. So, more on the new ones. At Al's apartment, Woody discovers, when he gets there, by the time he gets there, Al gets to his apartment building, and there's a sign that says, "No children are allowed on the building." And it kind of wonders something. Al may own a toy store, but he probably really does not actually like kids in real life. Or either that, or I think really, it's probably the building's rules or something. Unfortunately, I think that might be his apartment building's rules where families can't move in there. But either way, once he gets to his apartment, he gets called to do a commercial and demands they only make it one take because he's busy with stuff. And so once he gets out to his car, you get this other funny bit where he's in his chicken suit, he gets in his car, and he's all complaining, "I can't believe I have to drive all the way to work on a Saturday, all the way to work." And when he drives there, you want to know something funny? You know the toy store he works at? It is literally right across the street from his apartment. So basically, he lives right across the street from work, but he's too fucking lazy to walk to work. So he just gets in his car, wastes gas, and drives across the street, almost causes an accident to basically get to work. And he just complains about driving all the way to work, despite the fact he could literally just walk there. And you want to know something? I kind of wish I lived across the street from my work. Yeah, I really do. I wish I lived across the street from the store I work at. Because, especially in today's economy, too. Because that way, I wouldn't have to worry about either transit times, or I wouldn't have to worry about bus fare, or I wouldn't have to worry about something happening to my house while I'm at work because I'm right across the street from it. Or if I was ever called to do extended shifts, I wouldn't have to really give a damn because I would live across the street from my house, so nothing bad would really be happening to it. Either way. So, I wish I could live across the street from my work. Yeah, life would actually be kind of easy. And no, even if I had a car, I would not drive all the way to work across the street like this idiot Al does. So, once Al's gone, once Al has his lazy commute to work, Woody then, once he's at the apartment and tries to escape, he then pretty much discovers some merchandise of him, and he meets these other dolls that are there too. He meets this eccentric, excited one named Jessie the Cowgirl, her horse named Bullseye, who doesn't talk, and a prospector named Stinky Pete, who is voiced by the talented Kelsey Grammer, aka Slideshow Bob from The Simpsons, who actually also is a terrific little twist character. I'm about to mention why he's a twist character, but these new characters are also great. Jesse is very enjoyable and very entertaining. Joan Cusack gives a terrific voice performance as a character. Bullseye is also a pretty great comic relief who, he doesn't talk, yeah, but he actually still has a lot of funny, entertaining moments as well. And he's very delighted to meet them, and he finds out he was actually designed after the protagonist of a show called Woody's Roundup. It was which was this 1950s children western Thunderbirds styled series where it's shot with marionettes like Thunderbirds is, in a way, and he finds so much merchandise himself, and once he sees where he comes from, he's so delighted by all the merch he has, and is very delighted to watch the whole entire show. And when he finds out the show ended on a cliffhanger episode, he's like, "What? Come on, we gotta see the last one." And just like, there was no last one. The show was canceled. Why? Well, because once the astronauts flew off, children wanted to play with space toys, like Stinky Pete says, which kind of foreshadows the character he's about to be revealed as. And Woody's having such a fun time with all the merchandise of him, like the whole boards or the lunch boxes or a record that plays the theme song. But then, of course, though, once Woody realizes that Al's gonna sell the entire round collection to this toy museum in Tokyo, Japan, Woody then announces he has to return home to Andy, and it dismays the game because the museum will not accept the collection without him, and they'll go back to storage. So then, of course, when Al is trying to get a picture, his arm comes entirely off. And Woody then does try to retrieve it, but when Al is sleeping that night after he calls a cleaner to come repair the arm and polish him off for the photos, he tries to take back his arm while Al's asleep with a bowl of cheesies in his hand, and the cheesies falls. He has to avoid stepping on the cheesies, especially Bullseye even ate him as well. And he fails to get the arm because the TV turns on and it wakes Al up. And for what we can tell, Al's having a bit of a disturbing dream. Where it's like, "No, officer, I swear I didn't touch her," and I don't want to know what kind of dream Al was probably having. Yeah, I think it's better. I think we can tell what kind of dream it is, but then he pretty much just goes to sleep. Then realizes it's turned on, he just shuts the TV off and goes to sleep somewhere else. Right there, so pretty much then, you also have the gang are trying to make it through, and they're a little bit tired, about to give up, but Buzz pretty much motivates them to pretty much continue the journey. And basically, it pretty much goes like this. "Come on, guys, did Sid give... Come on, did Woody give up when Sid had me strapped to the back of a rocket? No. And did he give up when he threw him out of the back of that movie van?" And you can see by their faces, they still remember, they still have the guilt for all that, especially Potato Head the most. And like, you can tell Potato Head is pretty much still getting crap from everybody for all that, because he's like, "Oh, you had to bring that up." Like you could tell, like, I think you could bet off screen Buzz is still giving him crap for that one. Or like all the toys in general, probably all still giving him shit for that. And for the whole turn against Woody movement he started, so Potato Head is still regretting all that. By this point, like, you could tell he still feels bad for all that stuff, and he's just hanging his head down in embarrassment as Buzz is making his speech. And you see an American flag right behind him, is like, "We'll not rest until we find Woody," and they pretty much continue on. And that's how it cuts to the whole TV scene and stuff. Like, and so, pretty much then after that, the cleaner, who's the Jerry from Jerry's Game, comes and repairs Woody, and he says this great quote, "You can't rush art," when he's asked how long it's going to take. And that's pretty much, and definitely kind of summarizes when Pixar was making this movie. You definitely can't rush art. Like making both this and Toy Story 3, you definitely can't rush art indeed. And pretty much after he fixes it, he's like, he's only for display purposes only. And then when he sees his arm is repaired, and that's when he finds out after Jesse's still mad that she was abandoned by her owner Emily when she grew up. And is convinced Annie might do the same. So Woody decides that he's gonna not go home and he's gonna stay with the gang and go to the museum. And right here, guys, Jesse's backstory is easily the most emotional scene in the entire film. Like the song playing in the background from Sarah McLachlan, When She Loved Me, combined with the emotional imagery of Jesse either being played with by Emily, then being forgotten, neglected because Emily starts to get other girlier hobbies and grows up, and then gets neglected before finally being put in a box and sold. And it's where Woody learns that Andy isn't going to be around forever, and that's why he decides he's going to go to Tokyo with Jesse and Stinky Pete. And it seems Pete is really destined to be a part of the collection because he almost has almost brainwashed Jesse into wanting to do the same thing. And pretty much about that. More about this. As emotional as Toy Story 3 is, or a lot of other Pixar films are, to me, this is by far the most emotional scene of the trilogy. That is such a massive tearjerker to watch. Like, it's not some owner that just abandoned them and just turned evil. The owner here abandoned them because they got older. They matured more and they grew up. And pretty much when Jessie was about to be taken to storage, she thought she finally got Emily back and was reliving the old days again, but instead was actually being taken to be moved away when Emily was moving out. And Sarah McLachlan's song actually just makes the scene even sadder. An interesting fact, this bit was actually so sad that Randy Newman at first thought it was going to be cut because he didn't think kids would be able to handle this sequence. But actually, at the test screens, it actually made both Tom Hanks and Tim Allen actually cry when they first saw it, and you can easily see why. Because this is a very sad, realistic moment for a lot of people. We have such great hobbies, and then we get older, we get too old to play with our stuff, and it gets given away. It's a realistic sequence right here, and it was definitely it's probably the very first moment that really solidified Pixar as a king of tearjerkers for animation. Ever since then, ever since this movie, has struck the moment with all those. So, eventually, though, the comedy does come back when Buzz's group reach Al's Toy Barn. And they have they have to go through cones and they end up causing a massive accident on the road. And they try searching for Woody, they think he's there. So they split up, and Buzz encounters this utility belt Buzz. And this Buzz assumes he's a real space ranger and imprisons the real Buzz. And then Utility Belt Buzz meets up with Annie's other toys, and Buzz no, you got the wrong Buzz. Well, he's still trapped in the box, and he thinks they're on a mission to defeat Zurg, and accompanies them to Al's department. But Annie's Buzz is able to escape, though he accidentally releases a toy Zurg to get out the doors, and if the toy Zurg thinks that's Buzz, it follows to destroy him. He's going back to the game. And one thing I really enjoy is also the creativity, revolving around Buzz and the pals trying to rescue Woody from Al. And the creativity in this film, even better than the first, because they explore this world even more without it ruining the film too much. The plot of Woody, Jesse, Stinky Pete trying to get to Japan, but the other scenes, could be just whatever they want it to be. And that's why they work so well. They use the creativity around everyday objects to explain how the toys would be able to reach Woody. Like the traffic cones, the elevators, and air vents. And especially the subplot you have Buzz and actually the gang getting more to do in this film, trying to get to either going around the whole town, and pretty much having, despite the fact it's actually kind of a short distance, it kind of clearly takes a few days because that's the thing. Toys don't have cars, and you gotta walk there on foot. So, and obviously have to hide from human beings, so it does take a few days for them to, just as Woody's about to be taken to Japan. And like, this is where you get the traffic cone sequence, like where the toys have to get across the road underneath traffic cones, and Potato Head gets his foot stuck in gum and has to come back for it before he gets crushed to death. You have certain tropes from the original are repeated in a different way, and they actually work. Like, we have to see another, we do get an alright sequence of another Buzz who doesn't believe he's a toy, which isn't a bad sequence, but at the same time, it's kind of just repeating the gag with the actual Buzz in the first film. Like, and then the comedic line from Real Buzz that I really used to sound like that. And let's see on the elevator where Buzz believes he's flying, but he's just standing on top of the elevator. Is very hilarious. And you also have, then you do have the Empire Strikes Back gag with Zurg telling Buzz that he's his father, which I'll explain more on that when it gets to that part. And especially because like it references another great sequel, The Empire Strikes Back. And pretty much Rex finally defeating Zurg by knocking him off the elevator. And like right here, this film is definitely stronger than the original because of the emotion of the character arcs. And especially involving Woody and the Roundup characters. Like, the Toy Story 1 is about the ants, is also the ants of parenthood. Like, it's no better as it captured in this movie with characters like Woody and Jesse, with the fears associated shown growing up, or forgetting about the ones who love them unconditionally. It's shown incredibly well in a very heartbreaking sucker punch of a montage sequence. And much like the original, it's used to even greater effect, like the music and sound effects. Like, the stuff like Woody's Roundup and When She Loved Me are memorable, and they're used fantastically well in this movie. And it goes without saying, like, the animation and spectacle is the highest quality. Like, this was 1999, when it was like, when computer animation was still beginning. And 3D animation is more likely taken for granted these days, like, especially with these days, because, like, the whole cleaner animation was, like, very well done and well shot. And this was a film that took, like, that only had 9 months to be made. Like, so, and the whole Al's Toy Barn sequence is nice too. Like, you got them either talking to the Rock'em Sock'em robots in Al's office, and they're arguing over who they were talking to first. And then you also get some bit of the Barbies right here, and Mr. Potato Head all wowed by them. I'm a married man, I'm a married man, I'm a married man. And then you get tour guide Barbie, who guides them all through, and that's where they find their utility belt Buzz. And he guides them through all the other toy aisles. And it's a story that does feel very reminiscent of Toys R Us. So this was definitely another interesting sequence. To me, there's not really any dull sequences in the film. All the sequences are great, from either Al's apartment, or the journey to get to the toy store, or they arrive at the toy store right there, or at the airport at the end. So both Buzzes and the rest of the search party arrive at the apartment. And when they try to get there, they try to figure out how to go in, and Utility Buzz is literally trying to do all these methods because he doesn't know he's a toy yet. And pretty much now they get to inside the apartment. Rex, use your head. I don't want to use my head, Rah. They bust through the air vent, and they're able to pretty much find Woody, but at first they think, like, Jesse and Bullseye think they're enemies, and they get in a fight with each other. But, like, Woody calms down, announces they're actually not bad guys, they're actually his friends, and he's part of a show. And Woody refuses to go home with them. And so Buzz, and the reason why Buzz was rescued is because he was returning the favor to Woody after he made him open his eyes. And it was his turn to help him in a way, because Woody helped him in the first one. So Buzz was about to do the same thing, but they go back home. But after the search party leaves, Woody reconsiders. After he sees like the unaired episode apparently playing on the TV. Because in the background, you can actually see the episode that didn't get to air, where he saved them all, actually playing on the TV. So I guess in a way it still did get shot, but sadly they weren't able to release it because the show was probably ordered to be canceled. So they didn't get to release that final episode. And so right there, and so the last bit, and he sees like his marionette self saying, "You got a friend in me," as another kid holds him. And that makes him reconsider, and he decides he's actually going to invite the Woody's Round Toys to join him and become Andy's toys. Jesse is hesitant at first, but her and Bullseye accept Woody's offer. And though Pete, on the other hand, does not want to, and so he blocks the others from leaving, because this is where you find out the twist with him. He was never played with. And it's a nice twist where he turns out to be the bad guy. And it turns out he was the bad guy the whole time. He turned the TV on and he framed Jesse for it. He stayed in the box this whole time. He basically made Woody stay, so he was the bad guy the whole time. And it's pretty sympathetic and reasonable because he never got played with. And plus, Space Toys foreshadowed Western stuff where he's from, so he wants to go to the museum because he thinks that's the only way he's going to ever get noticed. Then Al goes back to the apartment and takes the Roundup collection to the airport. And once they get there, though, Zurg appears and you get the Emperor Strikes Back reference. You kill my father. I am your father. No! And then Rex accidentally knocks him off. Hey, I defeated Zurg. Father. And of course, but though they end up, pretty much after that though, Zurg survives the fall. Utility Buzz stays and catches up with him and plays like catch with like Zurg's balls. You're a great dad. And Annie's Buzz and the other toys pursue Al to the airport. There's Pizza Planet truck while accompanied by 3 toy aliens. Ooh, strangers from the outside. And there's this pursuit through the airport baggage storage system. And pretty much when Buzz is about to find Woody, Stinky Pete punches him. Prow! Take that, space toy! Hey, no one does that to my friend! And they pretty much fight, and Pete reopens and tears Woody's arm. Your choice, Woody. You could come together Japan in pieces. If he fixed you once, he can fix it again. Now get in the box! Never! Fine. And then, of course, though, they subdue Pete and take photos of him. You girls incompetent. Children destroy toys. They'll be forgotten to landfill. Well, Stinky Pete, I think it's about time you learn the true meaning of playtime. They put him in a little girl's backpack. Ew. Oh, look, Barbie, a big ugly man doll. Ew, we need a makeover. And the Barbie doll's like, you'll love her. She's an artist. And then Stinky Pete is horrified by this. And so after that, Woody's like, happy trails, Prospector. And so they realize Bullseye and Jesse are still in the bag. And so they're able to save Bullseye, but Jesse, though, is still stuck in the bag and gets loaded onto the plane. And so Woody, Buzz, and Bullseye work together. And so Woody goes into the plane and pretty much convinces her to still take the offer because she's still a little bit hesitant. And like, what if you won't like me? Nonsense. Andy will always like you. And of course, this finally convinces her to take Woody's offer. But then, of course, they're about to load some more bags. And just as they're about to leave, though, the people like, too late, put them on the next flight. And this has me laughing so hard because why would the airport be so incompetent to ignore a bunch of lost fucking bags? And I'm pretty sure this would not work in real life. In real life, I'm pretty sure the airport staff who allowed that would have probably been fired and complained about after customers on the plane realized their stuff did not come back to Japan with them or went to Japan with them and they were going on vacation there. Like, wouldn't they be pissed? And like, some people on the next flight are going to realize that that there's stuff that's not even theirs. Like, seriously, that would never happen. But then again, that has to happen because we need to have our finale be more intense. But at the same time, this would not work out in real life. The airport would have been sued for that. But it's still kind of funny. Either way, so they pretty much decide to reenact the episode that never aired. By basically, in a way, able to fly out of there. But Woody gets a little more rips in his arm. But they're able to fly out, to swing themselves he uses his voice box string to swing out of the plane, and they land onto Bullseye, who Buzz is riding on, and they're able to get off just as the plane takes off. And so the toys go back home to Annie's house, and how do they go back? They basically use this baggage cart and this other airport cart connected to it to get back. And they leave it parked in the middle of the street, and the next morning the neighbors are just looking at it. And around that night before that, though, Andy's back from cowboy camp just in time as they get home. And at first, he thought Mom bombed those tuna toys. Wow, new toys! And he's playing with Jesse and Bullseye, so he immediately accepts Jesse and Bullseye as part of his collection of toys. And the toys hold a sign that says, "Welcome home, Andy." There, and Woody was right. Andy immediately accepted both Jesse and Bullseye as part of his collection. Right here, now Jesse finally has an owner again. Tom Hanks, when it comes to the performances, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, once again, are terrific on screen together as Woody and Buzz. They were equally brilliant in the first two. They're even better in this movie together, where it shows more of their friendship here, where at first they were enemies in the first one, and now they're friends here, and it shows that perfectly well. Wayne Knight, aka Newman, and Newman from Seinfeld, and ironically also Dennis from Jurassic Park, which a movie that this film references. He also is very entertaining as Al. Who kidnapped Woody, and technically speaking, some concerned main antagonist, but now technically Stinky Pete is actually the main antagonist of the film, especially with this great twist he has. He also gets support from the late Don Rickles, Jodie Benson, Annie Potts, Wallace Shawn. Even it's definitely nice to hear the late Estelle Harris, who's also from Seinfeld, as Mrs. Potato Head. And the first one deals with Buzz and his fall. Toy Story 2 is about Woody and a realization that he's expendable to Andy in the long run. And it borrows the same premise from the first, but it's not a mere copy. This is a fantastic tale about mortality, and the toys don't really die because even toys have to find a purpose in life. Without purpose, life is meaningless. It comes in the whole airport sequence, Stinky Pete being revealed to be the bad guy, and he's written to have a real and believable motivations. While he's still technically a bad guy, at least his emotional backstory is actually reasonable. The designs of the characters are great to the previous Toy Story film, some improvements on characters in the backgrounds, and good details it does particles on a bookshelf as well. And it would be the turning point for Pixar. They showed how they easily could make emotionally gripping moments in films meant for families. And we even know this was originally going to be a straight-to-video cash grab, and it didn't end up being. And instead it ended up being one of the best sequels ever created. So now we get on with the finale. So after Andy is back from cowboy camp, he fixes Woody's arm, and so Jesse's able to get Buster outside of the house to go to the bathroom, and this pretty much wiles away Buzz, and as Wayne's hinting a boner, clearly, like the clear hint of that right there. And pretty much then, Ham and Rex are watching Al mourn the loss of the deal with the toy museum. Welcome to Al's Toy Barn. We got the lowest prices in town. Everything for a buck. Well, I guess crime doesn't pay. And Ham is right about that. Crime definitely doesn't pay. Al stole Woody, and Woody went missing, so he gets his karma for being a thief. He loses a deal, and he's going to lose his store. Right there. And pretty much then, Wheezy's squeaker toy got fixed. Right there. And so he's saying, you gotta friend me. And then Woody's telling Buzz he no longer fears Andy losing interest in him. And that's how Toy Story 2 ends. And it's an epic ending right there. Jesse and Bullseye finally have a new owner again. Al lost his store and his deal as punishment. Woody's arm got fixed, and Jesse even starts a relationship with Buzz that plays further into Toy Story 3. And then it ends with Woody telling Buzz, even when it all ends, I'll have old Buzz Lightyear to keep me company for infinity and beyond. And then you have pretty much Wheezy singing an epic cover of You Got a Friend in Me. And the last part that closes the movie is the closing verse of it, where Wheezy sings it. You're gonna see it's our destiny. You got a friend in me, yes you do. You got a friend in me, yes you do. You got a friend in me. Yeah, and oh man. It is such, and honestly though, and while basically a musical ending feels way too random and way too out of place, here it's actually kind of earned. You know, it actually is kind of an epic way to close the movie out. And also kind of a bit of a sad moment because this is the last shot you see of any of the characters together again, sadly. Alright, so now I have any bad qualities with the film. I would say for Jesse's part, well, it does make sense, for this bit, but I feel her one problem is that when Woody reveals that he belongs to someone a little too quickly, her anger in this third act moment with her and Woody kind of just starts off a little bit too early, and it doesn't really get resolved till Woody decides to stay. So I feel like more scenes first of Woody learning of his past were a bit deserved before randomly revealing that. You know, maybe if that happened after he got his arm fixed, and then he revealed that, then maybe it would be a little less rushed. And the stuff with Belt Buzz is fine. The Empire Strikes Back reference is gold, and the Rex user head bit is gold, but to be fair, I feel like it just kind of rehashed the gig with actual Buzz from the first one. And the bloopers at the end, Now, some of them, like Woody drawing things on Buzz, or the Bugs Life cameo with Flick and Heimlich, are funny, but ones like Miss Potato Head packing things for Mr. Potato Head, it goes on repeat, and then it just feels like you're kind of beating a dead horse at that rate in the bloopers. And yeah, I feel like this movie just didn't really need to have bloopers, and neither did Bugs Life or Monsters Inc. So yeah, I think a bad quality older Pixar is the bloopers they would have at the end of films. Like, this movie really did not need to have bloopers. You could have did without bloopers. Other than those, I love Toy Story 2 a lot, and it's just as much of a masterpiece. So in the end, I would say, yeah, definitely still rewatching, still buy Toy Story 2, regardless if you've seen it already. Even though I've already seen it at this rate, still watch and buy it regardless. Anyways, that's it for my epic movie review of Toy Story 2. We're going to rate Toy Story 2. Here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you love Toy Story 1 and are ready to see their first sequel, then definitely still rewatch Toy Story 2 constantly if you've already seen it or not. And if we're going to rank Toy Story 2, I'm going to give Toy Story 2 a damn 10 out of 10. Alright, there we go, guys. That officially wraps up my review for Toy Story 2. Now I want to know in the comments down below what you guys think about Toy Story 2. And now it's time to review Toy Story 3. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this epic movie review. Thank you all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to subscribe to Don G. Corleone.